Hey, it's your boy Black Socrates from Mental Dialogue, and I want to give you my 3 cents on the upcoming midterm elections, and this is going to be my guideline for how to vote. I think historically, as the African American community, we've made a huge mistake of tying ourselves to one party or the other. Back in 1870, when the 15th Amendment was passed, and we were given suffrage as a community, we were Republicans at that time because they were the abolitionist party. And then in 1964, after the passing of the Civil Rights Act, we actually became wholesale Democrats, thanks to the passage of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. And so unfortunately, we've given away our power by being tied to one party or the other. Dr. Claude Anderson has always advised we should actually become a voting bloc that actually becomes free agent during election time and figure out which party is going to offer us the most, and that's the party we should go with during that election. If they don't give us the things they said they were going to deliver, then we vote them out and put in the next group. So I love that idea. So with that said, I grew up in South Carolina. I grew up as a Democratic voter, as most African Americans are, and basically have decided or see that in the bigger elections, in the state and national elections, it's the independents who decide the close voting. If you're tied to one party or the other, your politician never has to listen to you because they know they're going to get your vote regardless of whether they do it. They tell you or promise you or lie to you, whatever the case may be. They don't have to pay you any attention because they know which way you're voting. And a lot of people identify themselves as one or the other, but I highly encourage that each of us learn to become independent voters and think for ourselves. And the way that I chose to do that, and this is a little advice for anybody else that wants to consider learning how to vote across party lines. You don't have to do it this way, but this is just something I thought would be very smart because I run into people who understand my way of thinking, but for the most part, they go in there and vote the way they always have. And so I decided to do this for those people in particular who see the wisdom in voting across party lines but never have done so. So here's a couple things that I've used that I would advise to others as well. The first guideline I use is I have two particular issues, political issues, that are very near and dear important to me. The first actually being getting money out of politics. There is a movement to get the money that's currently in politics as far as what it takes to run, and the lobbyists being able to influence our vote, or the politicians' vote. And so that's why as a country we feel that our government is no longer of the people, because the politicians and the lobby, or the corporations and the lobbyists, have hijacked our vote and have the biggest influence. And so if we're able to get some of that and pass referendums to get some of the money and limit the money, the large scale input, then maybe it will give some power back to the people. So any politician, and I saw some during this midterm election, who said we want to get money out of politics, so they're getting my vote naturally now. And like I said, this movement is taking hold, so that's something that's near and dear to me. The most important issue for me politically, as the black community specifically, which is something that matters to me, is ending mass incarceration. I think it is taking a devastating toll on our community, and it plays a huge role in why some of the things that we see happening in our community and our opportunities for advancement as a community. I think the so-called drug war. So anytime I hear a politician who's for that, then they're not getting my vote, or a politician who's hard on crime is not getting my vote, because I know those are code words for continuing to marginalize the black and brown communities through legislation that is typically, unfortunately, unfair to those communities. And so we talk about ending racism, or we're in a post-racist society, but when it comes to our justice system, it's actually an unjust system, unfortunately, that preys on the poor and the have-nots in our community. So ending mass incarceration is very important to me. So anytime there's a politician who cares about that, I vote for them regardless of what letter they have behind their name, whether that be D, R, L for libertarian, or I for independent. They're getting my vote, period. Alright? The biggest issue, and I think is very smart for most people to consider, would be long-time incumbents. If we say that our politicians have been hijacked by the corporations and lobbyists, well, long-time incumbents are getting used to getting that money, and so they're playing the game better than most. So I like to have put new blood in there, regardless, once again, of the letter behind their name, because they're going to bring new ideas. They also go into it idealistically with the idea that they're going to be different than the current situation that we have. And so I definitely get behind new blood when there's a long time incumbent, period. That's the couple things that I use, a couple issues that are important to me, and getting long time incumbents out. Or even sometimes I look at politicians who seem like they're not voting down party lines all the time, or they, if their party's upset or doesn't want to support them for some reason. Those are also other politicians that I will pay attention to. So, like I said, just a couple guidelines that I use that hopefully can help some of you out that want to become independent thinkers and vote for yourselves. In the meantime, until we're smart enough to take Dr. Claude Anderson's idea and become a voting bloc and not being tied. And this is what we must do when we don't have the access to the finances like these corporations. So that's why ultimately we got to take the money out of politics, and then it gives it back to the people. Now I will say, lastly, we put politics, we pretty much as a community, sometimes it's important to some of us, sometimes it's not. When I was tripped out, one of the elders reached out to me and said that the black churches have been coming on the radio and saying go out and vote and things of that nature, which is something that I'm glad that they're doing. But last week I offered all black churches the challenges to actually go out and support the business owners and the black business owners in their congregations as well as their surrounding communities. And so I would like to see black churches coming out and doing that as well, because at the end of the day, when it comes to these politics, we're not going to have any political power until we get the economic power. So I did want to kind of close this segment with realizing until our community makes a conscious effort to circulate the black dollar, we're never going to have the political power that we need to get the legislation to improve our communities. So we must put the economics in front of the politics, and we need the black church on board with both, not just coming out and saying go vote, not just coming out and saying I'm saving your souls and go vote. Let's get our hands on some money by circulating a dollar in our community, taking care of our communities, and then when we go to a politician, if the money's still a part of it, we got the money to influence them and give us the things we need. My name is Black Socrates, and I've spoken the truth as I know it. Thank you for listening. Hashtag just 3 cents. MentalDialogue. Check us out on Facebook. Check us out on Twitter.